Yellow! On June 18th, 2017, girl, Toronto held the Much Music Video Awards, also known as the MMVAs. The MMVAs are an annual award show that are held here in Toronto. They revolve all around pop culture, from music to YouTube to, yeah, they get some actors actually there too. This year, a globally well-known band, girl, they are actually like so cool and so different, and they came to Toronto. Let me get to the point. I happened to meet the Imagine Dragons. On June 19th, this is the day after the MMVAs, all the artists, all the celebrities started to depart Toronto because their job here was done. So for fans within like the Toronto region, they know that airport is a good place to meet some of their favorite artists. Although some people may be like creeped out about it, I have discussed it before. We are not there to harm like anybody. We're there kind of just like meet our idols. On June 19th, 2017, girl, I can't believe we met the Imagine Dragons. It's crazy because I had them kind of like on my little list of who I wanted to meet during the award show, and they happened to be on there, but I never really, I'm not gonna say put effort into, girl, this ain't the time. I never really put effort into it just because, I don't know, I personally find that bands sometimes are kind of hard to meet because there's so many of them, and then on top of that there's like their crew, so it's just like a bunch of people, so it's like hard to quickly go in and get like what you need, right? At 12:18 p.m, keep in mind this is, girl, the afternoon, don't get this confused for the night, and all of a sudden a bunch of like SUV type Escalade kind of deal, I don't know anything about cars, they start to pull up. And when you try and meet your celebrities, you know that these are the kinds of cars they'll pull up, they're like rolling in, so literally your head goes like 360 turning around to make sure that somebody's in there. So I'm like looking, literally like pretending like I had freaking binoculars, I'm like zooming in, I'm like, who is this? And my friend literally goes, Imagine Dragons. I literally throw my water bottle, I throw the gloss, I throw the lip balm, I'm like, I was like, oh my god, so ecstatic because I wanted to meet them for so long, and they have done like previous like appearances within Toronto, but I just never got the chance to like go out and see them. So I took this opportunity, girl, to the fullest, and I literally was like, oh my god. Okay, like I know people, like if any Imagine Dragon fans, like dedicated stans are watching, they're gonna be like, oh, like of course, like George, you went for like the main guy, like wow, that's so shady. But like, no offense, but when you try and meet a band, the first person you're gonna go to, unless like you're like a total hardcore fan and like you have favorites in the group, you're obviously gonna go towards like the main lead, right? So I go towards Dan, and on top of that, he's like gorgeous, and I wanted to like meet him because he's like stunning. He just looks so cool. Like he had these like reflective blue shades on, and he was wearing like a, I think like a thin sweater. We're in Canada, so it doesn't get like that hot, but it was like hot enough to not be, actually who am I damn fooling? I was wearing a crew neck that day too. So I go up to Dan and I was like, oh my god, like obviously like I've said this before, I'm very like open and friendly, that's just my personality, so I get kind of like, I try to be like that person who you could kind of like open up to a little bit, so that way it's not like ox. Because I've met other fans who are kind of very like, hey, can I get a selfie, please? Okay, thank you very much. And then there's me who's like, so I go up to Dan and I was like, oh my god, Dan, like you guys did so good last night. Like everything was like perfect. Like I loved the performance. He was like, oh, like you really did. Like thank you so much. And like you could tell that they are very like genuine people, because he easily could have been like, thank you. You know what I mean? But he was like, oh, like you actually liked it? Like he kind of was like, oh wow. So anyway, so I was like, do you mind if we get like kind of like a quick picture? Like, yeah, no problem. Like I love celebrities who kind of like, when you ask, they're kind of like, they question it. They're like, why are you asking? Of course. Because then you have like some people who are like, yes, I suppose. So I will insert my picture here. Here is the picture of me and Dan from Imagine Dragons. And it was funny because other like fans were going to like other bandmates, and everybody was so interactive. Even though it was like early morning, they had just performed, you know, they wanted to probably get on their flight and like depart the city. They were still very cool. Like my friend took a boomerang with Dan as he's like walking. He's also taking selfies, except they had one person, sorry, I know like a lot of the hardcore Imagine Dragons fans will probably know, I'm not sure who their handler is. He was like kind of aggressive, like not aggressive, like pushy and shovey. He was very like, move it, like let's go, like we're done, like last one, last picture. None of us are rude. Keep in mind, like us Canadians are very like simple, we're very like genuine, were polite. Nobody was being like harsh, so I don't understand like what the point of you raising your voice was, because, you know, if you told us, okay, that's it, we would have been like, okay, thank you. Anyways, that guy literally could have put his ass in a chair and sit down. But as of Dan, personally, I think I had such a great experience meeting him. He gave me like that great first impression, which I really was crossing my fingers I would get, because I knew that they were in Toronto like multiple times before in the past years. So I was like, oh, like I missed that chance, I missed this chance. But I was very pleased with the way he was. He was so happy, and he was like, oh, like you really like enjoyed the concert, like yeah, or sorry, the performance. And I was like, yeah, like it was really good. And that's kind of it. I mean, I could probably add like, oh, he punched me in the face and I was so thankful for it because he's so beautiful, to make the story a little more exciting, but yeah, I can't. They were like very humble people, and they were very thankful for, you know, having the fans that were there. I just want to say, Imagine Dragons, you were awesome, and Dan, you were phenomenal. Like, thank you for, even though it was like a short moment, thank you for giving me like a good moment. Anyways, for anybody who's watching, if anybody's ever watching me, I will talk to y'all in the next video. TTYLs.